are today at Lake George Regional Park, and I got to say we've been remiss. We have not had Lake George Park on before, and I think hopefully we'll make up for that today. And standing to my left is Daryl White, who is the administrator of Lake George Regional Park, and you've been here for 3 years, Daryl.
Yeah, 2018 was my first year with the park.
And where did you come from?
Well, in a roundabout way, my wife and I, we moved to Maine from San Francisco back in 2012. We spent a short-term stint in Sydney, and we moved to Skowhegan right just before 2018.
Yeah. So. And you came from where? San Francisco? You were there for a while, and you were into what, urban biking?
That's correct. Yeah. Well, I'm a New Englander at heart, and spent a lot of time here. But I owned a business in San Francisco for about 16 years. Yeah. And I was in the urban bicycle tourism business for a little over 20. I also simultaneously had an operation in New York City, and also had a national cooperative in the industry. So kept pretty busy. So what brought you here? It just became time to sell the West Coast business, and I had just started to have a yearning to come back to my New England roots. And my wife and I spent about a month having to spend some extra time in New York City on the job, so we decided instead of commuting from San Francisco, we decided to commute from South Harpswell, Maine, where one of my best friends has a place. And so my wife Jeannie, who's from the Philippines, she stayed there for the full month, and I took the train out of Brunswick every Monday morning and came back every Friday night. And at the end of that stay, she decided that she really liked New England, and because she's actually from the Philippines and had moved to San Francisco, had never seen New England before, and so that's all I needed. Yeah. So I went to work, it took me about 2 years, and was able to sell my West Coast business, and then came east. And I had lived in New Hampshire for a little while and really enjoyed that. But I'm an avid sea kayaker, and I happen to feel that the Maine coast is the most beautiful in the country, if not the world. So, and it's a sea kayak heaven. Yes. So off to Maine we went. Yeah, absolutely. I heard you're also a referee, right, in basketball? Yeah, well, basketball was a passion for a large portion of my life. I got out of it for a little while just due to aging body parts, but officiating was a great way to get back into the sport. It's a great way to give back to the sport. I love the fact that I'm able to get out there and move around. I've got a little bit of a challenge that I can work to meet in the physical realm, and love the game, love being back inside the lines. And since getting back into basketball officiating, I've also recently taken on soccer. Yep. Which started not even knowing the rules, but a little bit of time in the rule book and some time on the field, and that's a fun sport to officiate. So, just enjoy being out there with the kids and promoting the sports. So you're kind of a natural outdoor guy, so this seems to be just the perfect setting for you, really. Well, yeah, ironically, part of my major as an undergrad was in outdoor recreation. And then when I left my undergrad role, I just sort of meandered through different careers. I suppose the bike industry was an outdoor recreation endeavor. But to come back here, a lot of things seem to be coming together for me, things I've done in my past life. This role fits really well, and of course, coming to Skowhegan, I was very much inspired by the work that was being done at Maine Grains and Bigelow Brewing, the Bankery, and of course Main Street Skowhegan. All of that and more was a part of the reason that we decided to come to Skowhegan, and then this park kind of fits in with all of that. And you folks here at Lake George have had quite a partnership, I think, with Main Street Skowhegan.
Skowhegan Outdoors and so forth. You want to
Sure. Well,
relationship there?
yeah. Well, after meeting Amber Lamke, and I actually got involved with Maine Grains for a short stint doing some project work with Amber. She introduced me to Christina Cannon and the Main Street Board, and I became quickly interested in joining that organization, which I did 3 or 4 years ago now. And one of the things that the Main Street Board recognized was some people in the community saw their signature project called Run of River as something that was focused primarily on visitors and tourism, which to some degree that's true. It's the idea is built around drawing people from the outside that would come here as tourists to help with the local economy. So in thinking about that, the Skowhegan Outdoors program sort of conceptualized with the idea that, how do we promote local recreation? How do we get the local people involved? So that evolved to a partnership between the Outdoor Sports Institute and Main Street Skowhegan, where Main Street Skowhegan and stakeholders like Lake George and others in the community that are recreation facilitators, we became the trainees, and the Outdoor Sports Institute was the trainers, and they were basically teaching us how to either facilitate recreational instruction or set up programs.
Close working relationships by all of these organizations trying to make the Skowhegan-Canaan area better, and whether it be Main Street Skowhegan or you folks or Skowhegan Outdoors, and all the partnerships going on and working cooperatively together to make things better. So I think that's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Somerset Public Health is another strong player. They have their relationship with New Balance and the Move More Kids Foundation or program, and they've been great supporters. We've received some grant funding. We started a mountain bike park here. We're slowly building it link by link.
Yep.
It's called the Moden Trail in honor of Camp Moden.
Yep.
We've worked with the Somerset Career and Technical Center in their outdoor program. They were very instrumental last summer. A group of their outdoor team came out and helped us blaze trails here in the park. The recreation department, they supply lunches for the kids that attend camps. And of course, the Somerset Woods trustees, they recently donated a piece of land that they owned here on the east side of the park to the park.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're constantly looking for ways to collaborate with our community partners.
Well, I think that's fantastic. Okay, folks, we have changed the locations. We are on the east side, or I call it the Canaan side of the park, with the beach and the water in the background here, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. But I wanted to ask Daryl a little bit about Lake George, how it was formed, what the structure is,
Mm-hmm.
who works here, that type of stuff.
Sure. Well, I'll start by saying, having started here in 2018, and this having such a history, that there are other people that are a lot more qualified to talk about the history than I, and there are a number of people who really stepped up, and I'm a little hesitant to name names because I don't want to forget anybody. But the way, the general scenario that occurred was this, for a long period of time, had been Camp Moden.
Yes. And
in the early 90s, 1992 or sometime before that, Camp Moden determined that they wanted to move to the Belgrade Lakes. They still exist on McGraw-Ellis Pond. And so at that time, this beautiful area became available, and it could have gone to development or something else. And so a group of local people and the state and the towns they came together to preserve this space and create Lake George Regional Park, which is the only regional park in the state of Maine. So that collaboration exists, as I understand it, via an interlocal agreement, which determines that the state owns the land, the towns lease the land, and then the park is managed by a corporation that is equally represented by both towns, and that's called Lake George Corporation. And that's who I report to. That's who I work for. And ironically, I was recruited by Heather Kerner to this position, who happens to be Amber Lamke's twin sister. So there's all this synergistic stuff that's happened for me. And I have to say, it's been an amazing experience working with Heather and J.P. Kennedy, who's now our current board president, and the other members of the board, who, like so many others in this area that I've met, are just not only extremely talented, but also extremely, they're giving and caring people. So it's just been a great experience.
Well, you've had a pretty dedicated group on your board of directors, and I've noticed some names over the years of people who are typically giving to their communities and have been on the board for extended periods of time.
Absolutely.
Certainly the Townsend family, and Bill Townsend, who was certainly one of the foremost environmentalists in our area, was involved in this when he was living, as well as his wife Louise. And I understand you even have a trail.
Oh, well, that's right. Yeah, and I've been sort of plugging away at that, and it's important to me to honor the history. So one of our first projects was to rename a couple of our trails that we see as, we call them spine trails. These are trails that do like main trails through each side of the park. From there we can continue to evolve and build our trail system. So yeah, the Townsend Family Trail was renamed in the honor of the Townsend family. And then the Warren Trail on the west side, Nancy Warren was our first director of the park, and she did a great deal in terms of fundraising and setting up the platform in a really, really organized way. And then most recently, in honor of our longest standing board member, Warren Shea, we have informally, and we'll be rolling that out this year in a more formal manner, we have renamed a trail loop on the west side, what's now called Shea's Loop. So, and we will continue to find ways as best we can to honor those who really, rolled, and there's a lot of people who rolled up their sleeves and dedicated themselves to make this park happen.
Absolutely, very dedicated people, and as I said, some of them were involved in many, many years. And so, yeah, you certainly have that now. Now the structure of the workers here at the park. I mean, you are the administrator, so you are the top dog here, I would say. Well,
I recently took a new title. I'm now the director of the park, and my role, I'm in a half-time role.
Yep.
And then we have a park resource manager, Justin Spencer. Justin and I came in at the same time, and that was fortuitous for me because Justin does a tremendous job.
Yep.
He runs the operations, he runs the park grounds, he handles the day-to-day that people see. I'm more on the business side of the park. So the fact that Justin and I started together, he's so talented and industrious, he took the ball and ran with it on this side of the park and did the things that needed to get done to keep the day-to-day going. And it afforded me the luxury in my first year of kind of keeping the office going, but looking and learning and trying to figure out, where we should go with all this. And also fortunate for me is the board of directors, just prior to me coming on board, had finished up an extensive formal strategic plan effort, which is wonderful. It's wonderful to have a roadmap, and it's also wonderful in that they did extensive work in reach out to the community via surveys and individual interviews that we feel like we have great community input in terms of the long-term direction of the park.
Absolutely. Now, you also have a summer staff that comes online here right in May, right through September, and how do you hire those people? How does Justin do that?
Yeah, well, historically, we had worked very closely with Unity College and had brought in seasonal workers who could be in a park setting, in the outdoors, doing work that was conducive to their studies and their long-term career goals. Unity College has gone in a different direction. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing, but they're going to be a little bit more online oriented, I think. So that program is not as much of a resource for us as it used to be. And so now we're looking directly to the community. We have kind of two programs, one where we work with younger kids, student worker permit kids, to provide them some early job training. And we're also looking out to all aspects of the population for summer workers, like, great job for a teacher or, somebody who just likes working in the outdoors.
Are you having any difficulty hiring people, obviously, in this, well, I won't say post-COVID world, but hopefully getting in that direction? I've noticed a lot of businesses are having a hard time finding staff.
Well, we were lucky in that I think a lot of people are interested right now in working in the outdoors.
Yes,
so
understood.
we are ahead of schedule, probably by about a month in terms of our staffing for the 2021 season. I think we've hired 4 out of the 6 seasonal staff so far, so we're in pretty good shape. And then we will also be hiring for our summer camps. We have a new director, which hadn't yet mentioned, Michaela Howitt, coming on this year, and we have 2 camps. We have Camp Paduke, which has a long history. We run 2-week sessions for the Canaan group and others, and then we have a 2-week session for the Skowhegan group and others. And then last year, in kind of alignment with our programming with Main Street and Skowhegan Outdoors, etc., we started Rec Camp, which is sponsored by Reddington Fairview General Hospital. They're our naming sponsor. And that was a super successful, really exciting first year. We had just amazing support from the community once again. And a number of individuals came in with varying levels of expertise to help us facilitate the different activities: sailing, rowing, paddling, hiking, field games. It was great.
Well, there's all sorts of activities you can do in this park, and as I said, right now we're standing over on the east side, or the Canaan side of the park, and just below us is a picnic area with grills. You've got a beach down there for people in the summertime. Also on the east side you have a boat launch, so if people want to come in and bring their kayaks or their I guess it allows power boats and things like that as well to come in. Do they pay a fee?
Yeah, you have 2 options for use in the park. You can purchase a season pass, and then based on whether you buy an individual or a family pass, or you're a resident or a non-resident, that would determine the cost. But we work very hard to keep costs down here. And if you don't have a season pass for whatever reason, you can also pay a 1-day fee. And then there are certain groups, like children under a certain age, or children over a certain age, older adults, so what have you, can.
I'm one of those old children.
Yeah, they can get in for free.
65. I can get in for free.
That's right. You can get in. Well, first of all, here on the ground, you see the pinwheels. These are something that KVCAP does to bring awareness to Child Abuse Month, which is April. We're just into early May here. And just of note, we're also working with KVCAP on, we're going to try a pilot program this year where we'll have a free shuttle bringing folks out to the park for some of the Skowhegan Outdoors programming that occurs. So once again, another great collaboration opportunity. So behind us, a community member one day called me out of the blue, David Axelman, And he said, I have a sailboat that I built, and I would like to donate it to the park for the purpose of a playground. I said, oh, okay, thank you. So anyway, as things evolved, this playground seemed to fit perfectly into our overall programming plans. It's a program we call progressional programming. And the idea is that we provide programming across the demographic, from the toddlers all the way through to senior populations and special populations, in a way where you can plug in at any point to a variety of outdoor recreation activities where you can build your skills progressionally. So here the idea is to build a nautical themed playground using natural features here in the park, and centering around this sailboat, in part to help spur imagination. So, and then up on the hill, we have the Octagon building, which is one of the facilities left over from Camp Moden, a really unique building. And we've renovated it at least once, but unfortunately it's fallen victim to vandalism. And part of the reason is that we just have not repurposed the building in a meaningful way. So when it sits there vacant, that's an attraction for vandals. So that will become a imaginary lighthouse in theme with the park, sure. And it'll be a playhouse for the youth. And then as you look here, there's this hill. And the idea that we want to promote is activity, right? So bring the kids in, let their imaginations go, and then we will develop features in the playground that promote movement. So envision a climbing rope ladder up the side of the hill, and then a slide that comes on down, and maybe a deck. We had another sailboat, a smaller sailboat donated to us recently that we're going to repurpose as a sandbox for the playground. So up the hill here, yeah, always wet in the spring. Here we have a little sitting area, which we've named some folks who have helped out, primarily from Camp Moden alumni in the past, and their donations have been indicated here. We would like to spruce this up a little bit, and the idea being that we create some gardens and sitting areas for the parents and guardians and what have you of the youth using the playground, and just in general beautify this area and have it fit in as best as possible aesthetically with the outdoor setting here at the park.
Now you have to do some probably pretty significant fundraising to do this and all the other projects you're talking about. How's that going to be accomplished?
Well, last year one of our board members, Nancy Ames, brought to the table the idea of a Tree of Life campaign. And that was directed at the Social Hall project, which we'll get to a little bit later, over on the west side of the park. And the idea was to try to renovate that building. One of the major issues we had was a big crack in the floor. So that program broke the ice. We had some great participation from various folks in the community helping us raise. We probably raised through that program somewhere around $75,000 or so. Then we've had, since that time, 3 anonymous donations to the tune of $300,000. Wow. Which was, that really got things going and the wheels turning. And we've also had contributions from the town of Skowhegan and from the Somerset County Commissioner's Office. So all told, to date, we have raised $420,000 for these park projects. And somewhere in the midst of our fundraising, we were contacted by our partners at BPL, who had, there had been some publicity about our fundraising.
Who's BPL?
Sorry, they're the Bureau of Public Lands.
Okay, yep.
They're our partners in the interlocal agreement, and they encouraged us to apply for a Land and Water Conservation Fund grant.
Okay.
So we're in the midst of that now. That will be turned in a couple of weeks, and that provides the potential opportunity to match those funds that we raised up to $500,000. And so we will continue to fundraise over the next couple of years to reach that $500,000 mark. So our goal is a $1 million project in the aggregate.
Okay, and the 1 million, will that allow you to do all of the pieces to this that you're talking about?
We don't know that for sure yet, Chris. Another week or so we'll see what goes into phase 1 and what goes into phase 2. We are currently working with a master recreation planner. We have put out a concept design to the public for the west side. I expect the concept design for the east side any day. I expect, due to the cost of the social hall, which our recreation hall on the west side, and the addition, there will be some things that get pushed into phase 2. But we feel like we can make some good steps forward, hopefully, if we're successful with the grant, especially.
Now, there's one other, I guess you call it major project that you're trying to do over on the east side. It's an erosion control project, and there's a lot of wind coming off the lake, so maybe we'll stand back here
Sure.
and kind of describe it.
Yeah, well, along the shoreline, there are various points where we have some troublesome erosion. And over on the north side of the beach area, there are large poles. They call it cribbing. And from behind that, over time, that's eroded out. So it's really not an effective barrier any longer. So I met with the state, DEP. You know, my initial idea was, hey, I'd love to have a larger beach. They kind of chuckled. So basically they told me, you got to rip rock or rip wrap, I forget what you call it, and just put up another erosion barrier. During the course of getting estimates on our project work, one of the site construction guys had advised me that he had done a solution down to Camp Laurel, and using large granite stones that could also, it's approved by the DEP as a barrier, but it can also serve as steps, because right down there is beautiful sandy bottom, and I envision that as a means to extend the beach area, and yeah, really capitalize on that opportunity.
Okay, now we're on the west side of the Skowhegan side of the park, and we're out on the island area, which is really picturesque, and you can certainly, it provides quite a backdrop. And this island area, I understand, is used for weddings on occasion?
That's correct. If you've got the beautiful long view of the lake, and it's a great open space. We've had a lot of weddings here in the past. We run our Maine's Garlic Festival, which was new to the park 2 years ago. We ran that 1 year and then took a year off with COVID.
Actually, can you tell us a little bit about the Garlic Festival? I find that kind of an interesting
Well,
concept.
yeah. The Crazy for Garlic organization, Jason Waugh and Erica McCann, they have had a business growing and selling garlic for years, and they ran a small festival at their homestead for a period of time, and then it became so popular they outgrew it. So we decided to collaborate. The park offers the right atmosphere and grounds for their festival, and so we ran it 2 years ago for the first time, and it was a big hit. And one of the things about that festival, somewhat like our Somerset Snowfest program, is that it aligns with some of the broader direction that was developed via the Somerset Cultural Plan, which they look for our area to focus on agriculture, recreation, and the arts. So the recreation side is fulfilled through the Somerset Snowfest, for which we collaborate with Main Street Skowhegan. And then with Garlic Fest, of course, we've got the food element. And then we're also building out of that a music element. So we feel like, we're trying to stay in line with the community. But both of those events, Somerset Snowfest, which you may know has the Skijoring event downtown. Out here we run our kayak downhill race. There was a new sport invented in Skowhegan called Ice Hole this past year. A couple of local guys, and they've actually been selling ice hole kits all over the country. And they had their world championship right out here the same weekend as our Snowfest. So
what is that exactly?
Well, it's a little bit like hurling and a little bit like cornhole, where you throw a disc on the ice, and if it lands in the hole, you get points.
Okay.
Closest to the hole, kind of like horseshoes. So they're going to bring that tournament into Snowfest next year. So that's a really fun thing.
And you have, of course, ice fishing is a big part of it.
Ice fishing is part of the Somerset Snowfest. We actually, this year, we extended that. I think it was our 3rd or 4th year to a full week, so we can encompass the local school vacation, and we open up a lot of free activity during the week. We start out with the fishing derby on the front end, and then we have the big weekend with the Skijoring and all the festivities here at the park. And
those who don't know, Skijoring is you're on skis behind a horse.
That's
right?
correct. Yeah, we ran the first year at Eaton Mountain. It was super fun, super great, and we had cars up and down Route 2, and quickly realized we needed a bigger venue. So we moved out to the fairgrounds. And the success and popularity has continued in spite of COVID, and we always look forward to that event each year. And same with the Garlic Fest. I think both of those events are not only regional, but we draw from outside the state. I think that Maine Department of Tourism will take a close look at those events as they continue to grow. They're both excellent events and of interest to a lot of different people.
Fantastic. So here we are on the island, and as you said, this is a potential wedding venue site, right?
Yeah. Well, we've had weddings here for years, and one of the things I looked at when I first took the position, was how to make all the pieces fit on the financial side. The park traditionally runs at a deficit on its operations side, and part of the mandate of the corporation is to fundraise. So the fundraising then goes to support salaries and fixing equipment and things like that. Where I'd like to see the park be self-sufficient operationally, and then the fundraising go towards maintenance on buildings and then building programming for the community. So in order to fill that gap with operations, the idea is to activate assets that exist here in the park that may have been dormant over time. We inherited a number of buildings from Camp Moden when the park was transferred over, and some of those sit and some of those are lightly used. So you'll see later, we'll talk about some of the projects. We want to renovate those buildings and move on to finding some new revenue sources. So weddings, this place with this beautiful island, great place to have your wedding, and then the social hall up on the hill provides such an opportunity to move into that market in a way that brings people to the park for a few weekends a year, can add a great financial shot in the arm without going out and marketing the park and trying to bring in large volumes of people, because this is, after all, a beautiful local environmental resource. So we're stewards, and we want to manage that accordingly.
And you've got that delicate balance between needing to bring in some money to sustain the park, which means more people, but at the same time not having too many people.
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's a bit of a dilemma because part of our mandate is affordable access, so we keep the price down. Normally in that scenario, you go to a volume model. We don't really want to do that because we're, like I said, stewards of a gem of an environmental resource. So we're looking to find niches where we can bring in smaller groups of people on a temporary basis that can pay a little higher price point. And that would then serve us in terms of supporting our programming and building this out as an active recreation resource. Because as I mentioned, the social hall, a few weekends a year that serves as an event venue, and the rest of the time it's going to be purposed as a recreation hall, which of note will be heated. It'll be our first heated facility, and we are looking to bring more people here on a year-round basis, and to see this not just as a summer beach. We want to open it up and bring more people in to ski and snowshoe, and so they'll be able to come into the rec hall, grab a cup of coffee, sit by the fire, what have you, change out their skis, whatever it might be. So
well,
it's exciting.
Never know the weather in Maine in the springtime.
Comes the rain.
Right now we've got a bit of a rainstorm coming up, so why don't we move up to look at some of the other buildings that you're going to refurbish?
Yeah, we can go inside in the social hall. So.
Okay, so we've moved up the road here a little bit, and now we're in front of the cabins, or a cabin. There are 5 cabins here on the west side, and Daryl, they're a little dilapidated, and as part of your fundraising, you're going to make them look good again, I guess.
Well, we hope so. The cabins are in descending order from the nature cabin around the corner. We have 5 total cabins. They go from better to worse in terms of their condition, and so our nature building we still use various events, etc., and then cabins 1 and 2 we use for Camp Paducah, mostly as changing rooms for the boys and girls. We have little dividers inside and what have you for the kids to use and store their equipment. But then beyond that, the other 2 cabins are currently more or less out of commission. So yeah, we'd like to bring these back to as close to their original state as possible, with some of the modern amenities like, you know, windows and electric connections and what have you, that make them usable for overnight stay, which would be a new business model for the park. So again, as I mentioned earlier, looking for creative ways to bring revenue to the park. So we would, it would be a new venture for us, but we think it's a great opportunity, especially for the local community. Imagine being able to shoot out on a Wednesday or Thursday night and stay overnight in the park, wake up the lake, you know, right off the deck, and be a great thing for local folks and their families.
So you're going to have to do some, well, fairly major things here, right? Are you doing roof and painting and flooring and
yeah, the structural element of these cabins is more or less intact. So some of it would be aesthetic, some of it inside is, as I mentioned, the windows and things like that. But we've gotten them up on footings. The roofing is good. Some of the metal might need to be painted. One major piece will be providing ADA access, which currently the plan is to do some site work and to bring an access deck along the back side of the cabins, trying to preserve the aesthetic so folks can come up, and there are back doors to each of the cabins where folks can get in. So.
How big are these? Are they enough for, well, small to medium-sized family to stay in?
Certainly, I think 4 people would be more than comfortable. 4 to 5 people for an overnight stay. You know, they won't have you know, restroom facilities, at least in round 1. We have the restroom facility right there,
yep.
And then we are looking at having 8 new restrooms installed in the social hall. A couple of which we will probably have shower facilities inside of those. So.
Okay. Yeah. Now, are these going to be heated at all?
There's no plans currently for the cabins to be heated. The social hall, yes, these will be just summer facilities.
Okay. Okay. Well, it certainly is going to be an ambitious project, I would say, to get this done, but
indeed,
you have a very ambitious list to accomplish. So, And I think from here, maybe we want to go up and look at the social hall and
That's where it all
that
started.
area where the rec fields are going to be and so forth. Why don't we go there?
Sure.
All eventually, right?
Yeah, well, here on the right, we call this the upper field. And currently it's just a grass space. One of the first things we hope to do is to resolve drainage issues. We have a man-made vernal pool in here, which we'd like to keep, but some of the water leaches into the field. So we'll set up a drainage system first. And as part of that, we want to drop the power line that sits over top. That will open the field up to, you know, more recreation type sports, like you could play soccer or what have you out here without that power line going across the field. And then at the far end, there used to be tennis courts. You can see the pile of leftover tennis court. So in that area, we would like to bring in pickleball, which is a very popular sport, and then also basketball court. I had a comment recently from, as you mentioned, I was putting out information on the projects, and somebody wrote to me and said, well, you may not need the basketball court, but you're going to need a lot more pickleball courts. And so that may be. It's a fast-growing sport. I know it's a big hit with the seniors. I envision doing specialty camps down the road, and I would love to have a pickleball camp for retirees. Is one idea that I have. But the basketball court's going to come because I love basketball, yep. And I'm also very interested in attracting a wide variety in the demographics. So the more different activities and opportunities that we can offer here, the better.
This is a perfect flat space for all of that.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, field games of all sorts. And, you know, I envision having camps here. I've already spoken with some of the staff in the high school program. The JV coach, who's a park supporter, and I'm interested in doing some basketball skills camps and other skills camps for sports here, possibly in the future, add on to our current summer camps program.
So it's going to be one basketball court and multiple
and two pickleball courts. Yep. Yeah, that's about all the room we would have. So yeah, well, hopefully we have a problem down the road where we don't have enough court space and we have that much participation.
That'll be a pleasant problem.
That would be great, yes, indeed.
So I think let's walk up the hill towards the social hall.
Yep. So that road coming up will come up to roughly this area where we'll engage this, and then we'll make an S-turn to avoid the grade here. So this will just be a walking path going forward. And we will cut into the woods, into this area where there's already a natural opening. Probably have to take out this corner.
Okay.
We'll add some parking spaces along the road, and then it will do another S-turn back towards the facilities at the top of the hill.
Okay.
Again, avoiding this grade.
Yeah. It's a pretty good grade.
Yeah.
We're getting our exercise, folks. Coming up near the social hall.
Yeah, yeah. Back in the distance is the dance hall, which was actually a dance hall for Camp Moden, and it's a really great building, really well built. We have not yet figured out exactly what we're going to do with that in the future. It's definitely a phase 2 or a phase 3 project, but we're going to wait and see how everything unfolds and what our needs might be in the future before we make a final decision on that building.
Structurally, it looks okay.
Yeah, structurally it's in great shape. So
here is the social hall ahead of us.
Yeah, this is where it all started for us in terms of this overall plan. And this used to be one of the cafeterias. There's another large building over on the east side back in the woods. That one does not have the beautiful chimney and fireplace that you'll see in a moment. And we use that as a maintenance barn. It's a great asset for the park because we have a lot of items up there.
Okay, so you had a big open rock fireplace here. That's kind of cool.
Yes, it is. It's actually both sides. You'll see inside in a moment. Yeah, this is this is a gem. This would be tough to replace. So we'll be building around this feature for certain. So with this project, we're going to reinforce the roof structure, add a metal roof this time around, and we need to redo the entire floor. We suspect erosion that came from the west side of the building down under the north wall all the way through to this patio area and caused a collapse.
Okay.
So it's made the building, put us in a point of semi-use. We were able to separate off that area, and some folks have used the building for various events, but it's really not up to snuff from a market perspective. So that that needs to be resolved. So this area out here, we'll do some landscaping. We'll lose a tree or two. We need to take up these root systems and flatten this out a little bit. And then over on this side of the building here, we'll be adding our addition. So there'll be 8 restrooms. 4 you'll be able to access from the outside, so they'll be open even when this facility is not, and then there'll be 4 facing on the inside. We'll have a space for catering set up, our mechanical room, and then storage, all in support of the hall.
This would all, say you have a wedding event, this would be
this
part
is
of that.
the reception area, if you will. You'll have the option of having a wedding in the upper field and also the island where we were, and having your reception here. So this area here, as I mentioned, that will get flattened out a little bit, and then anytime you do a major construction project that involves site work, you need a place to put trees and stumps and what have you. So we'll be looking to build up this little piece here to open this up into a green lawn area. Okay. That will, make this wider in terms of its usability for outside of the hall for various events.
So you intend to have like local caterers come in and cater?
Absolutely, events? Yeah. We're not looking to be an event planner, or we're going to provide the facility. So
there's quite a bit of work ahead, I guess.
Yes, indeed.
You've
yes.
got to do the erosion piece.
That'll be the first piece, is the road work coming up, and then we had the water issue, we believe, coming down off the hill. So all of that has to be resolved with drainage. Same in the upper field. So once all that's done, then we'll start with the floor, and we'll go from there.
Now you're going to put in a hot air heating system or something in there?
Well, that's correct. Yeah, forced hot air and possibly some heat pumps. And so the addition will be kept heated year-round at your comfortable temperatures, 68 degrees, what have you. And then the hall will, the idea there is more of a take the edge off. So if you're coming in from the 20-degree weather in the winter, you've been out skiing or what have you, you'll be able to come inside, and hopefully it's 50 or 60 degrees in there with a fire going. It'll be a great place to come on inside.
In the wintertime.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So you would have, what do you envision for events here? Certainly you got the weddings, you've got...
well, local events, we'd like to promote music, maybe do some music events. Certainly, the theme here is recreation. So any type of recreation programming that we can do out of here. Skowhegan Outdoors and Main Street have started a tool library. So this could potentially be an annex of the tool library, or we could, equipment library. And this could potentially be an annex, or we could start our own equipment library. The idea is just to, get the equipment out there and get people engaged in the outdoors. So yeah, and so basically you could have some cross-country ski events. That's correct.
Here in the wintertime.
That's right. Yeah.
Hiking events during the
Yep.
spring, summer, and fall. And
yep. Yeah, the idea would be, the trails kind of converge here off the west side. And in the winter, it's even more open because you can come on over from the east side, come right across the lake.
Sure.
And then I was mentioning to you earlier, with the Master Recreation Plan, there is an emphasis on sort of downplaying the automobile as you come into the park and the sort of that dominance of the turnaround area, and just making it more conducive to walking. And by bringing the road in from the south and having it come up in this direction, it almost recenters the park in the field area, which ties this in. Currently the park is somewhat fragmented. You have the facilities up here on the hill, then you have the upper field, and then you have the lower beach area. And some people may not even know this building exists and could have been at the park in the past. So we're looking to help tie all that together and create, better flow in the park.
Well, this is a pretty sizable building. You could have some decent sized functions here.
Yeah, it's rated at 200 in terms of its capacity. So yeah. You want to take a look inside?
Yeah, why don't we put the camera inside and you can take a look and maybe you can describe the potential.
Yes, indeed.
There.
So, fireplace on the inside. We will add a number of more windows. We'll add doors to meet code. The stage will be removed in favor of a modular stage that would be stored in the addition, and we would bring out and build according to the event. So, for instance, if it was a one speaker or something, just be one piece of the stage. If it were a band or a theater production, we could fill the whole side. That will be a big picture window in the back. We will put gables and potentially mechanical gables for ventilation. The windows, of course, for ventilation and doors. We'll install as large a fan as we can. We'll redo the lighting. This will open up into the new addition. There'll be a small foyer out here. The main entrance will actually become a door right here. The floor will be completely redone. We'll take it up, we'll do some soil testing, bring in new soil if needed, compress that, pour a new floor, and we'll polish the floor.
So out this side would be like the catering addition. I know you have like a utilities room.
Yeah, well, that'll open up into a little foyer area, and then there'll be a beverage serving area on one side, kind of like a bar back, and then an exit out to that grassy area that I talked about earlier. And then from there, you'll be able to go down a corridor, which you could access the restrooms. Yeah. And the caterers, the caterers will have a driveway that comes on the west side of the building around to a parking space where they can load and unload directly. That won't be a commercial kitchen. It will have some sinks and countertops and shelving for the caterers' convenience, but the idea would be that they would cook off-site, clean off-site. That would just basically be a setup area for the facility and for events.
And the restrooms it's like 8 restrooms, right?
Correct.
You can accommodate a pretty good number of people here.
Yeah, everything has been spec to code. Like I said, working with Steve Rule, who has a great deal of expertise in that area, and currently the plans are at the Code Enforcement Office. I'm just looking to get some feedback before we look to finalize things and send them off to the Fire Marshal, which will be probably a round of some revisions based on their feedback.
So you'd be dealing with the Skowhegan Code Enforcement, right?
Correct. This building sits in Skowhegan.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, it sounds like exciting plans.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Any other areas of, I know I think I remember reading about you have some knotweed in the lake and you want to try to deal with that.
Yeah, that's been on the list for a while, and I do think we'll get to that here in the short term. We have, I think, 4 strands of knotweed that have been identified and some other invasive species. So,
no milfoil at this point?
No milfoil, no. And that's, you know, that's something that's on our radar. We are been very fortunate, of course, that we don't have the issue, and we are looking for ways to keep a closer eye on the ins and outs of boats and what have you coming into the lake in order to keep an eye out for that.
Well, Daryl, am I missing anything? What other fundraising projects do you have? I think we've covered the vast majority of them anyways.
Yeah, I believe we covered the you know, the main ones. We will be moving into more grant writing, certainly. We get support from ATD4 Workforce. So we get some staffing assistance. I currently have a person who's helping me out with grant writing right now.
That's an art in itself, isn't it?
That is, for sure. So, yeah, we will continue to fundraise. Like I said earlier, all of this won't fit into phase one. We'll know soon what we can do in the 2021, 22, 23. And then we'll just keep moving forward. We now have a plan, which is great. We're very excited about it.
In your ideal world, and I know these things don't always come to fruition, but in your ideal world, how long would it take to do all of these projects?
Well, ideally, we would break ground. If everything worked out, we would break ground on the site work in the fall of 2021 for this project here on the west side. There'll be some contingencies there, and as you know, COVID has had a kind of a strange effect on the construction world. The prices of materials are through the roof. So it may behoove us to wait that out with the hopes, fingers crossed, that will normalize to some degree. So again, there's some contingencies there.
You can certainly do the erosion part, though.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. So, you know, we're looking at this as anywhere from a 2 to 5 year scenario at this point to get from soup to nuts, if you will.
Well, it's very exciting times here at Lake George, and I think we have covered. Anything else you want to say, or something we missed?
You know, I think we've got it all. Again, just circling back to the programming piece. You know, we look forward to, you know, engaging with the community. Bringing the facilities up to snuff for their use. It's their park. It's all about the community.
Well, I would like to thank Daryl White for giving us a tour and giving us the history of the park and talking about all the exciting developments that may be coming here in the next few years at Lake George. And I'm glad we were finally able to get you on the air, and look forward to coming back again after some of these projects get underway. So I think that will be pretty exciting. And one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning of the show, Katie Willett is the lady that designed this show, started it a number of years ago, and Katie unfortunately can't be on the show anymore. She's in a nursing home at Maple Crest, and as far as I know, she's 90 plus years old and still doing very well, but we try to keep her up to date on what's going on, so I'll be making a phone call to Katie to let her know what we're doing for shows, but I know she'd be very excited about this.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chris and John. I appreciate the opportunity to bring some of these projects to light in the public sector. Again, and also thanks to people in the community. We've had, you know, just unbelievable support. Some people have really stepped up, whether it's financial contributions or volunteering at the park or what have you. And park wouldn't happen without the community. So.
And it's nice to know that we have all these active citizens that want to make their communities better.
That's
and
right.
All these organizations that are collaborating together to make this happening. It's kind of heartwarming to see it.
Yeah, you know, I'm new to the nonprofit sector. But, you know, I've traveled a great deal and I've lived in a lot of places, and honestly, this is a special place. People really, they really come together and they really step up here. It's wonderful.
That's fantastic. Thank you, and it's nice to be back on the air again, and hopefully there'll be no reason for us to be off the air other than maybe a summer break. So I'd like to thank you folks for listening, and thank Daryl White today, and also I should thank John Harlow, who is our behind-the-scenes guy who makes all of this happen. So Thank you, everybody, and now you know.